Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we're going to discuss Mike Elias and what direction he needs to take the organization in amid the struggles at the major league level. We're also going to talk about a prospect down the FCL who is off to a very good start this season. But first, as we like to do at the top of every episode, we want to welcome a new member to our Patreon community. And for that, I will turn it over to Bob.
Yes, forever grateful for the patrons that continue to sign up. But this week we got a new AAA member, Tyler Rouse, claimed him off waivers from the Dodgers who just didn't have room for his talent. We will take it. Thank you, Tyler. Hope you enjoy the content.
So, Nick, I have to acknowledge here, this is your first time on the main show in a few weeks. You did not miss anything at all while you were out. How did you time that so perfectly?
This is the Baltimore Orioles in 2025. We're not missing a whole lot this year. No, if it feels good to be back behind the mic on a regular show, but also considering the topic and what we've seen just now before we hopped on and recently, of course. Hopefully we try to make this as fun as possible. And we got prospects to talk about, so that's always the saving grace.
Yeah, absolutely. And the topic for tonight's show is what the Orioles do at the very top now that Brandon Hyde has been dismissed as a manager. In some very, very loud corners of the fan base, people have been calling for Mike Elias to be the next one to go amid the Orioles' struggles. Now, as we're recording this on Monday night, they did just put together a 3-game winning streak. They're currently trailing 7-4 to St. Louis. And with that loss, would drop to 19-35 on the year, firmly in the basement of the American League East. When Hyde was let go, there were some people who were questioning, shouldn't it be Mike Elias that takes the responsibility if someone's going to be dismissed for this team's poor play? After all, Elias has said himself in public comments that he accepts responsibility for the struggles that they have had. However, we know that changing general managers at any point, let alone mid-season, is a tall order. And David Rubenstein, although he has been very quiet so far amid this slow start, has generally backed Mike Elias in public comments. Now, if you've listened to us over the years, you know that we're fans of what Elias does, but I think that we can also clearly see where there were some flaws that went into the process for building the 2025 team. So we kind of want to air that out tonight and figure out what the best path forward is for the Orioles, with or without Mike Elias. And if it is with Mike Elias, what will have to change in order for this team to be more successful? And Bob, I'll start with you here. You and I had a chance to talk to Steve Molesky last week, and I thought it was interesting when Steve was on here how he talked about maybe David Rubenstein needing to nudge Mike Elias a little bit to be more aggressive in free agency and perhaps trades. Do you think that maybe is what we're heading towards with Elias, or do you think you see something different happening?
I see it a little bit differently. I still don't think David Rubenstein is going to be the meddling type of owner in the player decision, at least. I mean, yeah, he might have nudged Elias on making a move on the manager, but I think Elias knows what he's doing when it comes to, you let your baseball people do your things, do what they're paid to do, trust their judgment until you can't anymore. And I think that Mike Elias has at least shown enough since he's come here, which has pretty much been the best thing that's ever happened to the Orioles organization, that, one disastrously bad year, I don't think he's going to start telling him what to do or firing him. I think the people that are for Elias's head, yeah, obviously the season hasn't gone to plan for anybody, including them. I don't think the offseason went as planned, but I thought at the time they did the best that they could with the resources they had and the players available to make it work. Obviously it didn't. And yeah, you have to evolve. You have to make process changes. And I'm sure they're going to do that. This is a very smart front office. But yeah, I don't see Rubenstein being a guy that's like, I mean, I could see him getting a vote of confidence, like don't, like we did talk about this last week. Like, don't be scared to spend above what you think this player is worth. If you think they're going to help, I don't mind eating some at the back end where it's not going to work out as well. But and maybe that could give Elias in the front office the final push to say, all right, this is out of our comfort zone, but look, we need to do something and we've got to go ahead, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the people looking for Elias' head, they were already looking for Elias' head before this disaster of a season. So yeah, I think he gets at least all the way through 2026 before we start talking about any of the fire Elias stuff. And I have plenty of complaints about this season myself, probably different from what a lot of people's complaints are, but I think you have, I mean, this guy, it was like brought the Orioles like a phoenix from the ashes into contention. I don't think you can just hand wave that away in the middle of 2 months into the season.
Considering my football allegiance, I pray every day that ownership stays out and lets baseball people do their baseball stuff, because I'm very well aware of what happens when you are owner, GM, coach, and water boy, everything on your team. Yeah, clearly the anti-Elias crowd is louder than ever. They're more hostile than ever. Some people want to take their anger out on us for odd reasons, which has been fun to see the last week or so. But I don't know. I think there's also a segment of the fan base, though, that at least I've seen a little bit of, that acknowledge the positives that have developed under this regime. But, 2 straight pitiful playoff performances and now this season being a complete disaster, I think some people are questioning whether or not this regime is the right regime to take the organization to the next level. I think that's fair. But I do agree that, it's too hard for me personally to ignore all of the positives so far and to say, now is the time. Hyde was the wrong guy, right, to move on to Elias. It's I don't know. I look at all the successes, go back even further, all the successes in domestic scouting and drafting. And, of course, citing more hard data on this would probably be helpful, but I'd love to sit down and look at draft classes since 2019 and really put some hard numbers behind just saying, yeah, the Orioles draft good. What does the actual data say? I think obviously though, the scouting and amateur drafting has gone very well. It is successful. The health of the international scouting development process is stronger than it's ever been. Each class gets stronger and stronger. Even Baseball America even just has us now connected to one of the top 10 international prospects in next year's signing class. And that was just, we can go into detail even more about that, how the pandemic kind of caused a stir there, elimination of short season. There's so much deeper conversation to have with the international department. For it to be where it is now so quickly in a strong place, I think speaks volumes. That's one big thing. And people want to focus on one bad trade that hasn't, as of right now, is skewing heavily in the favor of another team, but fail to recognize all of the other fantastic trades this front office pulled off, and then developing of that talent they have acquired in the trades. And so for that reason, it's hard for me to immediately go to the fire Elias stuff. There is, it's 100%, the pitching this year is a disaster, and that is 100% on this front office. I don't think we need to sugarcoat anything or try and squint and see a potential workable big league rotation that maybe this team sneaks in. I think it's done, honestly, in my opinion. I felt like that for a long time. It is done. We went from hopefully an optimistic that November, December, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. What is this new ownership going to bring us, right? And I'm over here daydreaming of a Norfolk rotation of Cade Povich, Chase McDermott, Brandon Young, because there's not going to be enough room in the major league rotation. And now, look at where this pitching staff is at. And I think that is, the front office failed in a pretty hard way. The best signing, Sagano, do we credit Adam Jones for that signing there? That is a major failure on this team to not prepare for that. But I just think it's all, as bad as the offseason was and everything, this season has just been, you compile the injuries and you compile you can't tell me this offense is as bad as it's been this season. I think when you compile just extreme variance going against the Orioles as far as batted balls and the hitting is concerned, and the extreme injury variance not going the Orioles' way, I'm not at a point where I'm calling for a change in the front office leadership, but honestly, I am glad that this season went down in flames as hard as it did and as quickly as it did, because hopefully it does lead to a lot of people in the front office kind of taking a long, hard look at numerous different things and how this organization operates and forces real change.
I think that's a great point, and it's something that I was going to bring up is that I don't know that there has been a general manager in history, certainly not in recent history, that at some point didn't have a setback or didn't have some sort of failure, pulled off a couple of bad trades. The real trick is when they get on the other side of that, can they evolve? And I think that's really going to be the challenge to this front office. And it probably starts with the approach to the hitting program, particularly in the major leagues, because Ryan Fuller and Matt Borg-Salty aren't around anymore, yet the same problems from the second half of last year are still present. And I don't think it's because the people who are there now don't know how to coach. It's just that whatever philosophy they have been working from either does not work with this particular group of players, or the league has caught up to it. You need to find something else to work. And I think that speaks to a lot of things that the Orioles do that they have to evolve on now. They have to figure out, okay, if we're not going to go out and retain Corbin Burnes, what are we going to do to raise the ceiling of this rotation? That's one example. You could chalk it up to numerous other things. So they have jumped the market on Kyle Tucker last year. I still maintain something that I said when Brandon Hyde was let go. It's that you could go back and make the most aggressive moves of the offseason, but if everything else plays out the way that it has, the Orioles still aren't a very good team, yet they shouldn't be this bad. And I think the front office has to figure out what got them to this point and how to adjust those factors. And that, to me, is a lot more productive than just deciding you're going to fire Mike Elias, because you risk losing the people under him. Not to say that they're guaranteed to stay as long as he's here, but you could not like what Mike Elias has done, but like what Kobe Perez is doing to the international scouting department, and now risk losing Kobe Perez in the process. The other thing is, who is out there that's you could look at and say right now, okay, that person is going to do a better job than Mike Elias has done so far. I don't know that person is out there.
Ned Coletti.
You got how many other GMs in baseball can you point to right now and be like, what the hell are you doing with this team? Right? And they're not in a good position right now. I don't know. Does Mike Elias say everything? Is everything that coming out of Mike Elias's mouth like the greatest? Does he put everything the right way? Probably not. But other GMs do that. Look, Jerry DiPoto, 54% comment, whatever that was. There's just too many positives to sit back here and immediately go the way. If there are signs right now this year over the course of the next 2 months by the trade deadline, there are some things that I would like to see happen almost immediately being but by the trade deadline. And if no changes are really made, or we're still kind of crawling our way through the offseason, then the conversation can maybe change a little bit. But right now, it's again, what's going on with the hit? My question is, what's going on with the hitting? Can we figure that out too? That's because that's the biggest frustration for me is this lineup was not supposed to be that bad. But what is happening here with this lineup? Is there anything that sticks out in the numbers that we can look at publicly that is standing out, or what? I don't know, but I think it's too soon. And the anti-Elias crowd is going to be anti-Elias no matter what happens. Even if this team wins the World Series next year, they're still going to say this team won in spite of Elias. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, and you can say what you want about the pitching. It's a disaster. I think, like I was saying, that I don't think that this front office wanted the offseason they had on the pitching front. They just had to, they struck out on what they were going for. They had to do something, yada, yada, yada. The injuries, no matter what way you spin it, it's been a disaster. Although Trevor Rogers, pretty nice first start of the year. See if he can continue that, and it's nice to see some positive. It has been a little bit more positive. Been in more games longer, whatever. But to me, it's like Nick said, I'm glad it crashed as hard as it did, because I do trust this front office to evolve. But the problems that the offense is having, which is just mind blowing with the level of talent that's on display, despite all the injuries and despite who has been forced to be in the lineup. It's this will at least really get them to spin their wheels or their brains, the wheels in their brains to figure out what's going on and make some changes, because it didn't matter if you had 5 Corbin Burnses. The way this team was hitting the first 2 months, and it has been a little bit better the last week or so, you weren't going to be a winning ball club no matter what. So, yeah, the pitching sucks. It has sucked the whole way, but when you can't hit a fastball to save your life, I don't think it really matters what the pitching's doing. And that's more important right now, is figuring out what's going on. And you have guys like Holiday, O'Hearn. Mullins has cooled off, but he's still having a great year. There's guys who are having success, but the guys that you're counting on to lead the future of this organization, like Heston Kjerstad, is just like lost at the plate completely. Gunnar Henderson, slow start, obviously. I don't know. There's so many complaints to be had with this team right now and this offense. Although 3-game winning streak did help with the just overall state of mind for at least myself. Even though the losses don't hurt me anymore, because I'm with Nick. Like, this season is over. We're selling at the deadline. Just let's get ready for a great draft this year, a great draft position next year, a nice deadline to retool and rebuild the farm system, and go into this offseason knowing that you got to kill it or you'll be the one that ends up dead.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Memorial Day doorbuster deals are here at Lowe's. Right now, Rewards members save $80 on the Master Forge 4-burner gas grill, now just $149. Plus, Rewards members save $900 on the Lowe's exclusive Hisense French door refrigerator, now only $999. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/26. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.
Exactly. And if you guys were to look now, we've got about 2 months before the trade deadline, pretty much at 2 months. What are some immediate things that you think Elias and the front office should be thinking about, not so much to get this team back into whatever state of contention they can get into in 2025, but to make sure that in 2026 they can actually wipe the slate clean and get back to where they should have been all along?
At this point, I want to see if you're someone who is on, especially pitching, like if you're on an expiring contract and a pitcher, like, see ya, adios. Like, is Zach Eflin a free agent after this year? I don't know his contract status. He is.
Yes,
all right. Well, I would much rather be talking about Zach Eflin extension, Zach Eflin in future, as we've talked about many times before. But honestly, if pitching, I mean, look, Michael King might be done with San Diego just the other day. Like, injuries around the league are piling up from these contenders. And if pitching for health, if the price for healthy pitching is going to be sky high, then see ya Zach Eflin, right? See ya Seranthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, see all of y'all. take advantage of that, to be honest. But I'm hoping we're not selling these guys for, high A and low A DSL prospects. Like, I'd like to see this organization be more aggressive on the trading front, bringing in major league ready guys or near major league ready prospects. And with our own prospects, like, I want to start seeing them put in a position to, by the end of the year, hopefully where, the team might be out, but we're sitting in a better place because we get to watch Samuel Basayo getting everyday at bats. We're watching Dylan Beavers get everyday at bats. We're watching, Braxton Bragg potentially, like, that'd be a stretch, but or at least watching Braxton Bragg up in AAA rotation in the next, I don't know, week. Cameron Weston may be getting some major league run if he can continue this trend he's been on his last couple of starts. Like, it just feels like there's this like Charmin soft approach with the prospects, and not even to mention the big one here, Kobe Mayo. Like, Kobe Mayo should be getting every single day at bats in the major leagues, no questions asked. If he's not at this point, then just get rid of him at this point. Like, I don't understand what we're doing here with the Kobe Mayo stuff. It's sink or swim time for him. And I'd much rather see him get to the major leagues, get everyday run, and just fail completely than continue to watch Ryan Mountcastle do whatever he's doing up here. Like, I want to see them stop babying these prospects so much, and let's the guys who they've identified internally as guys that they are excited about as potential contributors to the major league roster, like, get them up or get them in a position to get their feet wet at the end of the year. So when 2026 rolls around, maybe Dylan Beavers isn't an everyday outfielder at the major league level, but he's comfortable because he got so many at bats this year. And next year, he's a really good fourth outfielder for you, or depth option for you. Maybe Cameron Weston or Braxton Bragg aren't major league starters, but they've got their feet wet. They're more comfortable. They're really good options out of the bullpen for you next year. Like, get these prospects in a better position to contribute next year, to where even if they're filling out the ends of the roster, well, we've got that solidified here. Or the depth is stronger. Braxton Bragg and Cameron Weston might be in AAA Norfolk's rotation again next year, but they've got major league time and they feel confident where if injury happens and you need them up for a month, you're not like, oh shit, here we go. Like, what are we going to get tonight? You feel a lot more comfortable in there. It's like things like that is what I'm looking for the rest of this year, at least. Hopefully stack some small wins like that in anticipation of a better 2026.
Yeah, as far as the young guys coming up and getting that playing time, that valuable playing time in the major leagues, I completely agree with what you're saying, Nick. And yeah, Kobe Mayo, I know May 30th, I think, is the new date where the extra year will kick in. So expect him up soon, or at least I do expect him up soon, but with knowing this team and how they've operated this year, who knows? But yeah, get these guys as much time as possible now so that they're more prepared going into 2026, even if they aren't on the major league roster to begin with. Like you said, my biggest complaint with Mike Elias and company so far is just the unwillingness to move on from bad players. Jorge Mateo is still on this team, and yes, the injuries have made that more possible, but Jorge Mateo should not be on this team. He started in center field tonight. He started at the time of this recording, and he started in center field another game over the weekend. Ciano Perez finally got DFA'd. Charlie Morton is still here, and honestly, we gave him enough time that he's kind of figuring it out a little bit, but still, like, you do not have to hold on to Ryan Mountcastle with his 590 OPS for a first baseman 2 months into the season when Kobe Mayo is right there. Like, Ryan Mountcastle has options. Send him down. Let him figure it out. Hessen Kjerstad, he has options. Send him down. It's not working. Let him get some confidence or figure out mechanically what's wrong in AAA. I don't care if you're bringing up whether it's Dylan Beavers. Obviously, he's a little bit hurt right now, running into the wall in batting practice, or Judd Fabian. Kjerstad ain't it right now. And I still believe that he's got what it takes to be a good hitter in the major leagues, but clearly the strikeout to walk ratio is enough to tell you the confidence isn't there. But as far as the trade deadline goes, we said the benefit of all these one-year deals is that 2026 rolls around, or the offseason in between this year and next, and all those salaries are off the books and you get to try again. Well, we can get their salaries off the books even faster and maybe get something from them. I do agree that I'm more trying to target guys with options that are major leagues already, or major league soon, ready soon. Guys that have options, guys that have multiple years of control, whether it's bullpen arms. If you can trade Soto, Kittredge, Dominguez, right there, that's 3 guys without options. Maybe you get a bunch of guys with options, so the bullpen's more flexible next year. I'm trading Cedric Mullins. I mean, Philadelphia Phillies for Mick Abel is like the dream for me right now. I would love to get Mick Abel in this system, and if Cedric Mullins could do it, that'd be great. His trade value is going to be probably him and Ryan O'Hearn, probably 2 of the best position players, trade value. We have Zach Eflin, Sugano at it in the chat says maybe, the increase in international appeal from Japan. Does that make it harder to trade Sugano? Maybe, but I'm certainly listening to offers on him as well. I'm ready to trade everything that isn't nailed down because we do have depth to fill in behind it in AAA and with whatever we get back. And even if we have some positive momentum, this is a discussion that was going on in our Discord, the Patreon Discord today. What if the Orioles are 5 games out at the trade deadline and close to 500? Well, sorry, I'm still selling. I'm not going to pull a reverse 2022 and throw away a chance to get some real talent back at the deadline just because there's like a 2% chance of making the playoffs. I'm ready. I'm ready to, even if we have the momentum, that's what I was going to say. Even if we have the momentum, we have the talent in-house that if the things that need to be corrected are corrected, they could still go out there and maybe surprise some people. So.
And we have a lot of time to figure that out here, but clearly some areas where Mike Elias and company can evolve. Let's talk about a prospect for a moment. Nate George down in the FCL was named the FCL Player of the Week by having a really fantastic run over the past week, going 11 for 22 at the plate with a home run while stealing 5 bases and collecting at least 3 hits in 3 of those 5 games, including a career-high 4 in a matchup against the FCL Rays. George, the Orioles' 16th round pick out of Manuka High School in Illinois in last year's draft, is off to a fantastic start with Tuesday's doubleheader included. George has 57 at-bats this year as a .439 average, 11-12 OPS, 3 home runs, 12 driven in, and 11 stolen bases. This is a player that we had heard a lot about coming out of the draft last year and had some buzz as a very high upside but raw athlete who was a multi-sport athlete in high school. It felt like the Orioles might have found some value in the 16th round, but a lot of unknowns about George until he started this season off of the FCL. And so far, he's delivering very promising results. Nick, I'll start with you here. I think we knew that George was an intriguing prospect, but it seems fair to say that this performance early in the season has really caught our attention.
Yeah, let's have fun now. George, although I will say the Mick Abel thing, I watched his debut against Paul Skeens. I watched that game the other day, and that was the most fun I had watching baseball all year. And that makes me even more depressed, actually, when I think about it, because it's not even an Orioles game. But yeah, George, I think clearly the power is for real. We knew he was kind of this freak athlete with good defense, good speed, and real power potential. And he's showing that already. I know he had that video the other week that he posted, and it was a double, but it was hit at 108 miles per hour. That's the only exit velo number I've seen or heard of. I don't know if you guys know anything more, but so I don't know what the real max is or, 90th percentile or anything like that. But even if 108 is his max right now, he's an 18-year-old kid who's played 16 FCL games so far. So that's a good sign. Obviously we can't watch him play these games, so we're missing all context. But it's strictly just FCL numbers. But you look a little deep, like the 73% contact rate, and he does have one of the higher swinging strike rates in the entire system. Not great, but like the strikeout rate is strong. And so I'd love to be able to dive into more like the breakdown of the swing and contact and swing and miss, but we don't have that information. But like that's a baseline for us to look at. Again, he's less than 20 games into his career, so that's something to monitor. And if I see like by the end of the year his contact rate is up, over 80%, and he's getting the swing and strike rate down, and he's still showing the power, and he's more successful in the base paths. And he gets caught stealing a lot so far early on in his career, but he's raw. He's 18 years old. The baseline is pretty strong for a late round high school pick. And I don't know. I think I'd like to see, hopefully, because if the reports are true, granted, the reports did come from, the same source that said he's future Mike Trout, that he had a strong extended spring training. Well, if that's true, like he was in Sarasota last year after the draft. He's been in extended spring training. He's only played a handful of FCL games, but he's played in 30, 40 games against Pirates and Rays and inter squads. So if he really did have this super strong extended spring camp, I don't know, bump Kevin Guerrero up to Aberdeen and give that playing time to Nate George, and let's see him in Delmarva sooner rather than later. I think that'd be a good sign as well. But yeah, it's exciting that it's one of the younger prospects in the system, and it's not even the DJ Layton. It's not one of the top high school picks. It's guy taken much later in the draft, 18-year-old who we knew very little about, and is this wild card, super high ceiling, but we don't really know that much about. And you look at these early numbers, and yeah, they're FCL numbers, but they're strong, and that's it's pretty exciting to see.
It's absolutely exciting. And yeah, I talked about him on our final segment last week, and he just continues to go out there and hit the cover off the ball at 18 years old in the FCL. Yeah, maybe he is future Mike Trout. I mean, that's the excitement of drafting these high school guys. Even though, I mean, he was such a late pick, he did get more than, the minimum they paid up for him. And that's the benefit of even Braylon Whitaker. Obviously, he's not off to this kind of start, but he's going to be another guy that we get to follow. You get these guys in young into a good development system and strength and conditioning program, and sky can be the limit. It's kind of like the American version of the international guys, where it's get them in young, let's indoctrinate them early into the Orioles way of doing things. And at least in the minor league phase of baseball, that's been working out so far. We just talked about the major leagues, but yeah, it's been super exciting. He's got speed. Could he refine that speed on the base paths? Yes. He's got power. Like you said, even if 108 is his max at 18, that's pretty darn good. Hit tool seems there. He can play defense. I don't know. I want to get all these guys up to Delmarva because I want to freaking watch them play. Jordan Sanchez, everybody, let's go. But yeah, it's exciting. And I can't see him making it all the way through the FCL season without a promotion to Delmarva if he continues to hit at this rate. I mean, it just seems like even if the BABIP is high and all that stuff, it's just like, what good is it even doing him at this point? But we'll see. Tomorrow's a day off at the time of recording for the FCL, so maybe that's where we could see a promotion or two.
It has felt like we're going to see there's a group of prospects I think are in the FCL now that it's not a question of if they're going to get to Delmarva this year, but it's when and how much time are they ultimately going to get in low A. And I think the biggest example on a lot of people's minds has been Jordan Sanchez, because there was that speculation over the offseason that Sanchez might bypass the FCL entirely, and so far he's having a great season. So you could see him in Delmarva. Joshua Lorenzo is healthy this year, looks very good at the plate. That's another guy I think you can move up, but George is outpacing all of them right now at the plate, and it's not the guy that I think we would have necessarily expected to do that, to get off to this strong of a start, but he really does not show any signs of slowing down.
No, and even looking real quick, I mean, even Steven Martinez has an 820 OPS, 9 walks to 12 strikeouts. Like, that's good to see. He's got a home run as well. Like, and Martinez and George are probably the two youngest guys on that FCL roster. So it's exciting to see, again, these younger guys to where I completely forgot the point I was going. I'm rusty. I've been out 2 weeks. Completely forgot the point I was going to make. But either way, like, George is living up to this promise. And, I want to see the film on him. Like, I want to see that speed in action. I want to see him out there playing center field in Delmarva. And let's see if he can rake down there in this ballpark that, is hard. It's one of the hardest ballparks to hit power in the minor leagues. Let's see if he can do that down there at 18 years old. But I do think I'm going to be watching if he gets promoted sooner rather than later. Then I think those reports coming out of extended spring camp were correct. And I think we talked about this where he ranks in our top 50. Maybe we were lower. I said he was the hardest guy for me to rank personally because of that, all those unknowns. Like, I'm not ready to shoot him up in the top 30 right now. But if he's getting promoted in the next week or so, I think that's something to strongly consider here. Like, all right, we've got the next big outfield prospect down here in the system.
I may be willing to shoot him in the top 30. We'll have to see next week when we do our update. But Yeah, I think we've learned to trust Matt Blood. And when he says, here's a guy, you got to listen, because Nate George was his guy, I feel like, in spring training when we heard him on a broadcast, or at least on the radio around that time. I can't remember exactly. But, all the way back to Joey Ortiz was his guy. And that turned out to be true. He's pretty spot on with these things. So you got to listen when people tell you things. I'm just Jordan Sanchez. He's off to a great start. He's doesn't have the high average that George does, but when he hits the ball, it's with an impact, and he's walking. And get him up to Delmarva, especially just because he's a little bit older. And by a little bit older is, what is it, like 19, 20? I have to look it up real quick just to be sure. Yeah, he's still 19 and a half years old. So he's so old for the level. But just, these guys, the FCL team, every time I click on the MILB.com and go over to look at the box scores, it's like, whether it's pitching with Esteban Mejia and Jesus Palacios, Francisco Morales, et cetera, or the offense, it's like, who's going to be the guy that lit up the box score today? And like we said, just can't wait to be able to watch them play instead of just scouting the box score.
With the Jordan Sanchez thing, I just put up too on Baseball Reference, and that was from like the national media. As soon as he signed, they kind of like, because I remember talking about him being like, those numbers in the DSL are unbelievable. But Baseball America every once in a while puts out fun little like data-driven articles about the DSL guys. Those are my favorites, since we really can't watch. And it's like, where's Jordan Sanchez? He's one of the top hitters statistically in the league. Like, are we missing something? Does the data just suck? Like, what's going on? And then it seemed like a lot of the conversation was, sorry, Nate George, not to draw the conversation from you, but it seemed like a lot of the conversation was, oh, he's so old for the level. He's an older guy down there. Of course, he should be playing well. He was right on par with league average last year in the DSL. And he's half a year younger than the FCL average player right now. Like, I don't know. That's just something that, just looking at that, I'm like, we got to get this stigma of he's old for the level out, because he's not, and he's a Cuban player. So, Sanchez, George, get them up to Delmarva, make Delmarva interesting again, because it can be rough some nights. But
If your brain is at full capacity with to-dos, birthdays, dinner plans, meet Skylight Calendar. It syncs your entire family's schedule onto a sleek digital display, so you focus on important things, like where you left your coffee. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/talk. Go to skylightcal.com/talk for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/talk.
And now we'll go into our final segment of the night. Last call, brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. And when you're at the ballpark this year, be sure to check out the beer stand behind home plate, where you can get one of Checker Spot's signature beers. The Bird is the word. And now in our final segment for tonight's show, we're going to shout out players outside the top 30 portion of our top 50 list for something they've done recently, whether it's been a good game, a good week, or just something we want to point out in their stat line that we find interesting. And for that, I will start with Nick.
I'm going to go back to Delmarva, speaking of interesting. And Raylan Ramos has been interesting. I know we've mentioned him a lot this offseason, and now a couple of times in this segment already. Like, I don't know, TT Bowens may or may not have a competitor here for naming rights to this segment. But in my opinion, he's one of the real sleeper prospects down in the lower levels of the minors, and he has been streaky, but the highs have been high. Just like last week, he was 9 for 18, so 500 average. That's easy math there. 3 doubles, a home run, 3 walks, and a stolen base, 1424 OPS on the week. So, again, back-to-back seasons in the FCL the last 2 years where he was mostly hurt. He doesn't turn 21 until December. He's got a 116 WRC plus right now. So, he hits the ball on the ground too much. It's a 50% ground ball rate. But, I mean, we've all watched him play. We've watched the home run clips. When he can lift the ball and drive it with authority, that's an impact bat. And he's flashed that down in Delmarva. So, hopefully, he can smooth out the ups and downs and get to Aberdeen in the near future. And then my pitcher, I'm going Carter Rustad. 15th round pick out of Missouri last year. I don't know if he's gotten a shout out on this segment yet this year, but he 15th round pick last year, got a $50,000 signing bonus. That was one of the lowest in last year's class for the Orioles. He was a 23-year-old senior, didn't pitch last year after being drafted, so made his debut this year, pitched well in Delmarva, got promoted to high A recently, and last week he made 2 appearances, 2 2/3 innings, no hits, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, got a save as well. So he's now up to 1 earned run in 8 2/3 innings with Aberdeen, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. Older, strictly relief arm, not someone who will probably ever sniff our top 50, but that's what the segment is for. And he's played well so far. I've got 1 inning. I haven't really sat down to watch his stuff, so I can't really speak to that. But I've got 1 inning of StatCast work here from 2023 when he was at Missouri. And it was a low 90s fastball with 18 plus inches of induced vertical break, 7 plus feet of extension, and a 5-pitch mix. So I don't know. Interesting. I'm excited to sit down and actually watch Carter down in high A now that we got good camera view down there.
Good shouts, especially Ramos, just because when the rosters were announced, that was the mild surprise there was okay, this is interesting. He's, one of the few guys with upside that started the season in Delmarva. At least we didn't know what we had in Yasmel Buche at that point, but 20 years old to be doing what he's doing, that the organization showed a boost of confidence there, and he's delivered on it, especially of late, getting better as the year goes on. Hopefully that continues. My guys. Oh,
I was going to say, luckily my Yasmel Buche comments were in private, just between the 3 of us before we found out who he was. So no one can go back and find those.
Yeah, I mean, he's been excellent since. All right, my guys, I'm going to go with Edwin Amparo for my hitter, because, man, the season started off pretty rough for him. Did not go too well in the beginning of the year, but since May 4th, as the weather warmed up a little bit, he's been pretty good. He's batted .271 with a .918 OPS, .220 ISO, 20% walk rate, 165 WRC plus, striking out a third of the time, but maybe that's part of what got him going was them telling him, look, you got to swing the bat and make the impacts, because that's what he seems to be doing so far. He also has 10 stolen bases in the month of May, or since May 4th, I should say. That's 75 plate appearances, 3 doubles, 2 triples, 2 home runs, 15 walks. So Edwin Amparo, he got back on our radar last year after a strong season. Slow start, but he is picking things back up. And I just wanted to shout out Houston Roth for my pitcher, who's 27 years old and was 2019 29th round pick from that first draft class, still kicking around as a relief prospect. And he got a shot to go up and pitch in AAA for the first time, or not for the first time, excuse me. He actually pitched 2 innings there in 2023, looking back. But at least since he's been this version of himself, he got up, pitched 2 2/3 scoreless innings. Yeah, I think he's been pretty good last year as his first full relief prospect season. He had a 3.35 ERA in AA, came back from injury to start the season, had 11 innings in AA, and had a 1.64 ERA before getting that promotion to AAA. And unlike Peter Van Loon and a few other guys, he's actually stayed in AAA this week instead of being returned. So congrats to him. He's 27 years old. It's now or never. So shout out to Houston Roth.
I'll start with my pitcher this week, and that's Isel Correa, who made his high A debut on Saturday as the Ironbirds took on the Wilmington Blue Rocks. Put together a really good start, 5 2/3 innings, giving up 2 runs on 4 hits with 2 strikeouts and 1 walk. Correa was promoted from Delmarva, and although the strikeouts were up during his time with the Shorebirds, if you look at who he's been over the course of his career so far, he's mainly a guy that gets by with locating his pitches in the strike zone effectively, inducing a lot of ground balls and a lot of soft contact. He had 9 groundouts in that debut outing for Aberdeen. And the key for him is really going to be making sure that he minimizes those starts where the walks pile up on him. That was a little bit of an issue when he made the jump from the FCL to Delmarva last year. And although he had some rough patches, or 1 or 2 rough starts with the Shorebirds before this promotion, it seemed like he had ironed out his command as time went on. So hopefully he's able to continue that in Aberdeen. And then for the hitter, it's it's the guy in this segment, T.T. Bowens. First of all, happy birthday, T.T. Bowens. Today is our recording. As we're recording, it is his 27th birthday, and he's coming off an excellent week. And the Tide took on the St. Paul Saints. Bowens appeared in 6 games, going 6 for 19 at the plate, capping the series with a 2-home run performance on Sunday. Overall, putting up solid numbers this year in AAA, giving the Tides good depth, a little bit of power in the lineup. So shout out to him for a great week. Nice. And for that does it for this episode. We will be back later on this week to talk a little bit more about the Norfolk Tides and a couple of prospects there who are in the middle of big seasons and producing well. And we're going to break down how they fit into the Orioles' plans long-term and how maybe they could help this team out later in 2025. That'll be on our episode later this week. In the meantime, you can check us out on our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up to become a member of our community today. You can join at the $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus weekly coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list. And Bob teased us at the top of the show, so I'll just mention here that our top 50 update for the month of June is coming next week. So now is a good time to sign up to become a patron and have access to that episode and more. For Bob Thielen and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.